So not many people get to go to Africa in their lifetime, and a chunk more don't get to go twice. This was my second trip, and this time we ended up in Tanzania. The first time we went to Kenya with my parents, and I haven't edited together that video yet, but I'll get it done soon. It was a work trip for Keta, but she got to bring me along, so I was really excited to be there. In Arusha, one of the first places we visited was a school for deaf children. In Tanzania, a lot of the time, a kid will be abandoned if they're going to be a burden on the family. This place brings these kids in and educates them and teaches them useful trades. After learning about the school, the company that was paying for our trip took us to their headquarters for a quick tour and showed us their fleet of safari trucks. Because this was a work-related trip, we were always on the go, so we headed to the airport, got on a small plane, and made our way to our first safari camp. The best part about safari is regardless where you are headed, you're always going to see some wildlife, so it would always take you a little longer than you would expect to get to your camp. After seeing some elephants, giraffes, and ostriches, we finally made it to the sanctuary swallow camp. After a night of wonderful food and drinking, we woke up to find monkeys right outside of our tent. That's Africa for you. We jumped in our safari truck and headed out. Within the first hour, we had already seen 3 of the big 5 animals. Big 5 being leopards, lions, buffalo, elephants, and rhinos. The one thing I didn't like about this park, and then the next park we went to, was you had to stay on the roads. So if there was something off in the distance, you couldn't just drive to it to get a closer look at it. If it would have been that way the whole trip, I would have been pretty bummed, but it wasn't, as you'll soon see. We saw more than our fair share of elephants, and then we got a close look at a pretty gnarly lion. He had definitely been in a couple of fights in his lifetime. The next day we got up early to make the drive to Gibbs Farm. After driving for a couple hours, we stopped and took a tour of a small town by tuk-tuk, which are small taxis like the ones they use in Thailand. They showed us a market and walked us through the town. It was another long day of travel, but we eventually made it to the farm, which was amazingly beautiful. I really wish we would have had more time to relax there, but it's a business trip, so that's what we get. So Keta's gonna get a laugh out of this because I'm gonna totally butcher the name of this valley. The next day we entered the Ngorongoro Crater Valley. It was crazy to drive over what you thought was a mountain and come to the lip and see this huge, amazing valley. We saw a lot more animals, but yet again it was another park that you couldn't get off the beaten track, so a lot of stuff was off in the distance. Our guides brought us to a local African tribe after that, and we got to do a tour of their village. And we got to see who could jump the highest in the group. This night we got to spend at the Ngorongoro Crater Lodge. I thought this was pretty cool because Anthony Bourdain had spent a night or two here on his trip to Tanzania, but I know it doesn't really mean anything. In the morning we jumped on another flight to make our way to the Serengeti. This is where we got to see our first of many huge herds of wildebeest. That night we headed out for a sundowner, and along the way we saw a dying antelope. When we came back less than an hour later, it was completely gone. Another flight, and we made it to our final lodge, which was by far the best. I'm amazed I didn't get any footage of it though. Next time I gotta really think about that when I'm doing these videos. Here we got to see a large lion pride, probably the biggest we got to see the whole trip. On the way to the sundowner that night, with the rest of the group, we managed to spot our first leopard of the trip. He was just chilling in a tree. The next day, I got super sick. I thought I might be out for the count for the rest of the trip because of it. It was pretty bad. But then I got a ton of fluids in my system and I was good to go. Which I'm glad I did because I got to see a pride of lions feasting on a recent kill. A turtle, a couple of cheetahs, another big turtle, and then a female leopard munching away on a wildebeest it had killed that day. It is super rare to see these, and only a couple of people in the group had come out because they were all so tired because the trip was kind of demanding. So it was pretty cool to witness this with just a few of us in the truck. The last day of our trip was spent going to the local village and meeting a family and learning how they live. It was a pretty cool experience. We ended up in a crazy little bar, and they had a chicken, and we were drinking midday, and Keta ended up dancing with some local. Then, it was time to head home. Hope you enjoyed this quick glimpse into our trip to Tanzania.